AB 223. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chair and members. This bill, Assembly Bill 223, it is about youth safety, and it is about preventing bullying and harassment. As you know, California has provided the tools needed for persons to change their vital records to match their gender identity. However, the petition process and the resulting paperwork are a matter of public record and information, as we have always understood them to be. Normally, that's been housed at our county facilities, which have required somebody to go down there and actually procure the document. But in this day and age, it's become common practice that many counties are digitizing them, which also seems on its face to make a lot of sense. However, that means that a lot of this information is now discoverable with a simple internet search. And what we are seeing from youth that are transitioned and have gone through the petition process to have their name or their gender marker changed is that we are having individuals such as a classmate or some other third party discover that information and outing them. And being outed is an extremely traumatic event for any individual, especially for those under the age of 18. According to the Trevor Project, transgender and non-binary youth are 2.5 times as likely to experience depressive symptoms, seriously consider suicide, and attempt suicide compared to their cisgender peers. So by allowing people to choose when and how they decide to share their personal information, this will give them the confidence to navigate their gender identity issues without fear of retaliation. Assembly Bill 223 protects the privacy and mental health of transgender and non-binary youth by making common sense changes to the process for persons seeking a gender or sex identifier change by placing the petition and the resulting paperwork under seal until that person is 18 years old. This bill makes no changes to the actual name or gender change process, nor does it change parental or familial access during that process. It simply ensures that the resulting paperwork remains private. For witnesses and support, I have Kathy Molig with the Trans Family Support Services and Trans Youth Liberation, and Clarice Barrellet, a family law attorney.
Ms. Molly.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Kathy Molig, she, her, my pronouns, and I am the founder and executive director of Trans Family Support Services. We serve families on the navigation of this journey, and in our 8 years, we have served 3,500 trans youth and their families. A large part of what we do is helping families to know how to navigate, who needs to know this information, when they need to know this information about their child's transition. For our minors, getting their name and gender marker changed legally is critical and a positive step in their transition. The state has made it much more accessible over the years. However, these records of what should be very private information are public and easily accessible over the internet. The access to personal information is why many of our youth are being outed by their peers. A simple Google search of the youth's names show these court orders. I've worked with many different families that have had this scenario happen. Their youth who maybe at a young age in elementary school has legally changed their name, and then as this student moves up into middle school, their peers will do a Google search of their name, find these court orders, and out these students. This is spreading this information across peers, causing our students to have an extreme amount of distress. I've had many students who have dropped out of school and moved into homeschooling situations because of being outed. Often these parents don't even know these court orders have become public records and are easily consumable, making this experience even more troubling for these families. No minor should have their private information shared in such a public way. So on behalf of the thousands of trans youth and families, I urge your support of this bill.
Next witness.
Good morning. My name is Clarice Estrada Barrelay, and I'm a proud parent of a trans child. The advances we've made in technology test our expectations to privacy so that we must continually define what privacy means. Anyone with a smartphone can get information about almost anyone within a matter of seconds. For parents of trans kids like me who lovingly sought to support them via a name and gender marker change and protect the privacy of a former name and identity that didn't match how our kids felt inside, we have subsequently learned just how easily accessible these court records currently are. In addition to being a parent, I'm a lawyer, and I spend a lot of time in law school learning about and debating the right to privacy in many contexts. In my practice of family law and restraining orders, I continue to face these issues on behalf of my clients in response to the other side. I understand and appreciate the concept of an open judicial system as fundamental to our democracy. But in addressing that openness, even our U.S. Supreme Court acknowledges that this is not without anticipated exceptions. One such important exception is petitions for name and gender marker changes for minors. My trans child was only 8 years old when he messily scrawled his signature, what was meant to be his signature, on the petition I submitted on his behalf for a name and gender marker change. He certainly did not at that time and could not appreciate the details surrounding the petition, only that he was clear in his mind and in his heart that the feminine name and status of female did not accurately represent how he felt. We'd already been informally using his preferred name, but he was outed any time his legal name was required. He suffered from gender dysphoria, a term I turned to Google to better understand. The same Google where the top hit is my son's case for his name and gender marker change. And just as he and I believe that what is or is not in his pants is private, we also believe that a petition made on his behalf as a minor before he could give legal consent to its disclosure should be kept private. We believe that this type of court proceeding is among those that our high court accepted, and we're confident that the state of California will continue to be a leader in codifying our right to privacy, especially with the young and vulnerable population of trans youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Name and organization only, please.
Becca Kramer Matter on behalf of ACLU California Action in support.
Craig Pulsfer on behalf of Equality California in strong support.
Jonathan Clay, board member of Trans Youth Liberation in support.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. You're behind the guy who's 6'10", so.
Madi Roby with
Yeah.
Trans Family Support Services in support.
Yeah. Okay. Now I see. Seeing no further witnesses in support, witnesses in opposition.
Hi, my name is Cattinson, and I'm a local. When I was 13, I didn't want to be a girl. I hated the way my body changed during puberty. I felt uncomfortable when boys teased me about my chest. I tried to return my body to its prepubescent state by starving myself. I wanted to escape being female by erasing my soft curves. Then I discovered transgenderism online. I saw photos of trans men post-transition with beards, muscles, and prominent scars on their chests. Websites included links to buy binders and packers, find out where to obtain testosterone, and access legal name change information. I thought I'd found both my problem and the solution. I hated my body because I was born transgender, and transitioning would alleviate all my issues. I'm lucky I was not affirmed by my parents, teachers, peers, or my pediatrician as I made it to adulthood without poisoning my body. My self-hatred was never addressed, and I continued to obsess about transition. In my 20s, I decided to socially transition, changed my name, and began dressing more masculine. I hated that I still looked female, so I called Planned Parenthood here in Sacramento and obtained a prescription for testosterone with no mental or physical health assessment required. Testosterone only relieved my distress for a very short time, but induced physical illness. I became more suicidal post-transition than I was pre-transition. AB 223's intent is to prevent suicide, but hiding a child's real name and sex does not in any way prevent suicide. The only long-term study on suicide in trans-identifying patients is a Swedish study which showed that those who underwent surgeries and wrong-sex hormones were still 19 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population. Sweden is one of the most progressive and accepting countries in the world. Kids are going to change their minds like I did. Hiding who they really are biologically is only going to make it more difficult for them to reverse course when transitioning fails to cure their mental illness like it failed to cure mine. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Erin Friday, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, a licensed attorney, and I voted for same-sex marriage. I'm the co-lead of Our Duty, a nonpartisan parent group that fights against gender ideology. AB 223 is a bill that will do more harm to the trans-identified minors than good. First, by hiding and sealing the sex from their teachers, counselors, and other adults, they will be stripped of their chances to pay special attention to these vulnerable kids to protect them from bullies and alike. Second, AB 223 will render it impossible to keep any type of accurate data keeping. Vital statistics will be rendered meaningless. The number of trans-identified children who engage in self-harm, are victims of bullying, drug use, or runaway, live in poverty will no longer be able to be tracked. In 2022, AB 1094 went into effect. California is spending $1.4 million to train medical examiners to record the LGBTQ status of those who died violently. How will the accuracy of that information be assured when crucially relevant records are sealed? Third, there are no studies, and I mean no, that show that suicidality or completed studies are more prevalent with those minors who are public with their trans identity as compared to those who are not. In my group of thousands of parents who have children who are not socially or medically transitioned, none of us have had our children commit suicide. I cannot say the same for those who have socially and medically transitioned their children. Since California started pushing gender ideology and gender identity in 2010, California's youth suicide rates have increased. The CDC shows that from 2010 to 2020, the California suicide rates for those under 24 have increased by 11%. This bill assumes that every minor who adopts a gender identity that differs from their immutable sex will not change as they mature. The data belies that. DTrans Reddit membership has grown from 8,000 in 2020 to 45,000 as of today. Last, what this bill does is hide the sex of a minor, which can be a very relevant fact in Title IX cases. Vote no on AB 223. It harms trans-identified children.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition?
My name is Greg Burt from the California Family Council in opposition. Thank you.
My name is Allie Snyder, concerned parent in opposition.
My name is Beth Bourne. I'm a concerned parent in opposition.
Brandon Campbell, Northern California Director for the Capital Connection for Baptist Churches and the Pastor of the Faith Baptist Church in opposition.
Thank you. Seeing no further witnesses in opposition, questions from committee? We have a motion from Mr. Kalra. Second from Mr. Haney. Questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Saley.
Thank you. Assemblyman Ward, I just have a couple questions. This bill, is it strictly limited to sealing requests for minors?
Thank you, Vice Chair Saley. Yes, it is.
So my question is, does this change the process to do name changes? So does a minor still need their parents' consent or permission in order to file the name petition?
Nothing about the process changed, including the requirement to have a parent present for a minor who is not emancipated.
Okay. I will just comment that I believe this is a very sensitive topic, and it's one that should be reserved for as a private family matter. And so I understand the concerns, and but I think generally as a matter of public policy, we generally keep minor records private in court cases, especially juvenile cases. So I just want to confirm that this does not alter the process, that parents still have to file the petition, and that this would remain a private family matter until they turn 18?
That is correct, and just to be transparent, we are working with the Judicial Council to be able to have technical amendments to ensure that it will work with existing court processes, including having the information kept confidential by the courts instead of requiring a separate petition from the minor.
Okay. And I know a lot of people are fighting on this issue right now, and I just don't want to see children used as pawns.
Agree.
And that would be my concern.
It's only one parent that's required to change the name.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and I will say for the record, yeah, I don't agree with SB 179, that process laid out, and I would welcome the opportunity to revisit those requirements, but this bill I think is very narrow and would just seal the records to protect the individual minor, and in that regard, I would support it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Ms. Dixon.
Just a question I wanted to ask the witness. What was your point of, what was it, 45,000 reversals? Is that what you were saying? If I understand, I just wanted to clarify your point.
So Detrans Reddit is an online forum where detransitioners go to discuss the harms that were done to them, including desisters. Detrans Reddit blocks people like me from posting because I'm not a detransitioner. It grows by now 60 people a day. That means that more people are detransitioning. Like Kat, there's also someone in the audience. As the number of kids grows, as the number of kids say that they are trans-identified, it's growing at a 5,000% increase. The number of detransitioners is correspondingly growing like that.
Okay, so then how does this relate, that fact relate to the provisions of this proposed bill?
Because as a parent of a child who is gender questioning, these children need an off-ramp. They go to school and they say that they're a different gender. They can't just then go back to school and say, actually, no, I'm actually the sex that I was born. They need an off-ramp. And so when you change their name, and by the way, it's only one parent that is required to change the name, and we have a person in the audience who fought to not have her child's name. But once that is done, and then those records are sealed, it's harder for that child to reverse course. They have gone through this whole rigmarole, and they need to be able to identify and experiment with who they are without the legality of changing their name. It's very difficult to go backwards in time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ward, just to clarify, what is the process to change the name back and forth, whether you're trans or not? Is that difficult to do?
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. So there is a petition that you can submit through the judicial process, which is then agreed to by a judge for a name or a gender change, and then that is filed with the county facilities.
May I?
Yes, please, of course.
It's just a new petition, a new $435 filing fee, unless you have a fee waiver, and then it's nothing.
Okay, so the changing back, the legal process to change back the sexual gender is not an impediment.
It is the same process as the original process.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes.
Just a procedural question. Is it automatically unsealed on the 18th birthday?
Yes, it is the intent that it will be sealed for somebody until they are 18 years old.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, we do have a motion and a second. Mr. Ward, you may close.
Thank you. I understand that there is a lot of important conversation around the subject, but as has been stated, this is a very narrow bill with a specific intent, with the express purpose of making sure that we are protecting a youth's privacy that would otherwise lead to harmful incidences in the school environment. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, for your work on the support bill. Thank you, Ms. Molig, for the work that you have done for many years. The motion is do pass. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mainshine?
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Assaili?
Aye.
Assaili, aye. Connolly?
Aye.
Connolly, aye. Dixon? Aye. Dixon, aye. Haney? Aye. Haney, aye. Kalra? Aye. Kalra, aye. Pacheco? Aye. Pacheco, aye. Pappen?
Aye.
Pappen, aye. Reyes? Aye. Reyes, aye. Rivas?
Aye.
Rivas, aye. Sanchez?
No.
Sanchez, no.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.